Namaste. Welcome to Global Perspectives. Our special guest for today's episode of Global Perspectives is Shambhu Neil Vineberg. He is the president of Vineberg Communications USA. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Could you tell us what inspired you to get into the field of PR and communication?
I had an unusual pathway. I was studying meditation with a guru named Sri Chinmoy, and I was very inspired by that, and I wanted to help him. So I thought, could I get him on television? And so I learned PR through the process of trying to get him on television radio shows. I think my first effort, I got him 17 shows.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, in the New York media and the American media. So I learned a lot about how to work with media, and then extended that into making a whole business doing it.
How old were you when you first started?
I think I was 21.
Oh, wow.
I knew nothing about PR. I had asked friends of mine, how do you do it? And they said, you make a press kit, you do this and that. So, I took a shot at it, but my first effort was very successful. And that kind of happened through life. And through that, I learned the lesson of hard work, very comprehensive research, and then take your best shot.
From the time when you initially started to where you are now, how do you see this field evolving over time?
In the US, the media was much smaller than it is now. Now it's very segmented because of the internet. There are thousands and tens of thousands of ways you can get the word out about something. But way back, there used to be 3 or 4 major networks in America, and 3 or 4 major radio networks, and then a lot of small stations. So it was much more manageable. And now it's evolving into a very digital environment, and it's much harder to work with the press right now because they don't even respond, they don't answer phones. You don't even know who is the press. Everyone's the press.
What is it that keeps you motivated to keep doing this?
I love the clients that I work with. I'm very selective. And, I have to believe in the client, first of all, because, when I'm taking them on, I'm giving a lot of myself to it. In exchange for money, I'm doing that. But still, I have to believe in the client and believe that I can take them to another level.
So for you, personal connect in the work is very important.
It is. And I think that for anybody doing business or dedicating yourself to something, you have to believe in it. You have to be able to kind of imagine what it could be if it grew, or if it aspired to be something more than it is now. And you just dream and then try to construct it.
You guide startups to excel in what they do. So can you share with us a success story that's very prominent in your mind?
I was fortunate to be part of the birth of the internet. So when everything changed, there were many, many startups in America and around the world that needed to get the word out about what they did. So one of the earliest ones I took on was a bunch of companies that were trying to change traditional music from CDs and albums into digital. And there was a lot of resistance in the US to that. And my clients were working with a technology called MP3. And everybody knows what MP3 is now. It's the audio portion of the MPEG-4 video package. And they said, we have this new technology that allows people to decode music and encode it and decode it, so you could digitize music for the first time. And I was hired to help popularize that. So I had one client in the field, and I said, this is so big, it's going to transform music. I need bigger budget. Who else is doing this? And there were 4 or 5 other companies, and I took them all on as one client. And then within 6 months, we dominated the music industry with that technology. 1 company went public, 2 companies exited for tens of millions of dollars. So that was very successful. In 9 months, we took something that was an idea and kind of grassroots into a company that went public in 9 months, and it was valued higher than General Motors at the time.
Your work at the Weinberg Communications included breaking new technologies into the market. So how do you stay ahead of trend and what the market wants?
That's a great question. Most of the companies that I took on had technologies I'd never even seen. So, you kind of have to really work with the executives of the company to understand what they created and why they created it. I'll give you an example. I just worked with a client out of Dubai that's creating a decentralized internet. Right now, the internet is all centralized servers owned by big companies. He's inventing a technology that allows anybody to have servers. So you could have 100 million home servers, and that could run the whole internet.
Wow.
You don't need Google anymore. You don't need Amazon storage. So that's a guy with a great idea. He hired me early. His technology is not even ready for the market. It's just coming on now, 2 years after he had hired me initially. So sometimes you learn technology from the executives, you research it, then you find out they're too early. You can't do much with it. But you do have to pretty much start with the executives and then research the marketplace, see where the technology fits, talk to users, see how they're working with it, and then you can deliver a message to the public that helps bring the public closer to where the company wants the public to be.
What is one thing about your work that gives you the most satisfaction?
Wow, success. You know, it's nice to have an idea, it's nice to build it, it's nice to see it succeed. And especially if clients are paying you to deliver a service, it's nice to see the client happy.
Success means different things to different people. What does success mean to you?
For me, success is allowing my deepest creativity to manifest through my life. So, after the public relations work, I started a music career. And I found that playing my own music and recording it and releasing it to the public, that really gave me the most satisfaction because I wasn't working with someone else's technology, I was working with my own. So I think for me the most satisfaction has been taking my own creativity, putting that out there, versus being hired to do that for somebody else.
You create music.
Yes.
What is your source of inspiration for creating music?
Well, my source is inner for music. I don't write music for commercial reasons. I write music to kind of express my soul. I'm lucky that I have the freedom and the financial ability to do that. You know, I can take my time and do something really creative with it. So that gives me the most satisfaction, really, is doing the music and in a way that it's a true expression of who I am. I'm not really compromising it to sell records or anything like that. I'm doing what I feel, what I believe. The good thing about it is the music's actually been very successful. So that's the beauty of my life in this moment, is that I'm doing exactly what I always wanted to do, and the marketplace is saying we like it.
You have a new single that's coming on January 31st.
That's right.
Called Reflections. Can you tell us something about it?
Yes. It's a song that I did as part of my last album, but I didn't finish it. And, it's kind of a story of my life, Reflections. It's a very quiet piece that I guess that feels like the inner journey that we're all on in trying to find ourselves and trying to find meaning in life, meaning in our work. So this song is me going deep within and just sort of telling the story of my own reflections.
When was the first time you felt like music is my thing?
Well, music was always my thing. I was studying piano at the age of 5. I studied guitar at 7. So I was born with this large musical capacity. My parents recognized it and they gave me training. And from 10 years on, I was earning a living making music from 10 years old. I was on television at 10 years old.
Wow.
Doing music. By the time I was 17, I'd earned enough money to buy, in today's money, a BMW, at 17. So from there, I had so much confidence because I was already successful. And so I just sort of took the music from there. When I started with meditation, I put the music aside, actually. And I decided to focus solely on meditation and spirituality. And then I went into the business and became very successful in the business. And then as the business was really peaking, I said, it would be a sin. It would really be a spiritual bad move if I left this life without exploring the music, because it's my strongest talent. So around 2007, I decided, okay, I'll try to do an album, but what is my music? What is my music? I spent 3 years playing and practicing until I realized that the music that I was playing when I was just fooling around, that was my music. From 5 years old, I used to just fool around, do this, do that. That was it. It took me an entire life to realize that what I was just doing spontaneously, that was it. So I started to put that out in 2010. My first album went to #1. And I'm played very often on America's biggest satellite radio network. So a lot of people hear it, millions of people hear the music. So, for me, I feel very satisfied in having taken a God-giving talent and doing something with it, not for commercial reasons. Like, I didn't decide I was going to write pop tunes because that would make me the most money. I decided that I would play music from my heart, and that was enough. But then I put out the music from the heart, and people said, wow, we like this. And I thought, wow, that's perfect. I'm being me. I'm not compromising. I don't have to serve clients that I don't like sometimes, maybe. So that became a revelation.
In any field, when we do our work, it's not always that we get success. So sometimes when we fail or we don't get the response we expect, we tend to become sad naturally. So how do you think we can deal with that?
I think people need to take errors as a kind of blessing, that the universe is correcting them and saying, okay, do it this way now. In terms of success, you can't really be attached to success. I can say that I have a lot of success in my life, but there was a point when I didn't. So sometimes we fail. Sometimes we're a little below what's needed to deliver. So either you get help or you take your shot next time and you do a better job next time.
How do you find out the difference between criticism and critical feedback? How do you know this is the feedback that I'm supposed to take in and incorporate and make my work better, and this is just a criticism, I don't have to pay heed to it?
I think it depends who's giving it to you. If it's a very learned person with a lot of experience and they're giving you guidance, you try to use it. If it's someone who doesn't really know what they're talking about, you just say, thank you, I appreciate it, and you let it go.
You've worked with people belonging to different backgrounds, different cultures, from Japan to Finland to New York. So how do you incorporate all that diversity into your strategies?
Well, in my case, it starts with humility, realizing that there's a lot to learn from each culture. So I think you have to listen very well. Listen to your clients, listen to the market. You have to be humble enough to know that if you worked in the US, it doesn't mean you're going to be successful in another country. So, you kind of have to get the lay of the land. You have to take a look at the ground and understand what the ground looks like so you can navigate it. So it takes a lot of research, but it definitely takes a lot of humility. If you go in there into a project thinking you know it all, good luck.
What advice would you like to give to emerging leaders who wish to pursue a career in this field?
Well, public relations is becoming very complex now because, as I said earlier, it used to be that you could contact one or two media outlets and reach sometimes an entire nation or an entire city. Now there are dozens of bloggers and influencers on all the different social media platforms. And in a lot of ways, that energy is affecting the marketplace. Influences are affecting interest in products. In fact, instead of hiring a PR firm, a hotel will bring 10 influencers from Instagram to stay for a weekend in exchange for writing about it. So I think it's harder for PR people because the environment we're working in is changing, number one. Number two, it's changing so quickly we don't know where it's going. And the third one is AI. Artificial intelligence in the public relations field is making it a lot easier for people that don't have experience writing press releases to write press releases. You can almost create anything.
What do you think is the solution to this complexity?
I would say education. And I think that PR is going to become, like many fields, increasingly competitive. So if you're just doing it as a job, who knows? If you really love it, you'll probably have a better chance of succeeding. So I would say if you want to succeed in PR, you better love it. You should be publishing all the time on your own personal social media, so that if you ever wanted to get a job doing it for someone else, you could say, oh, let me show you what I did on my own. So if you want to be in PR, you had better be writing, you had better be using social media, and all the tools that a client is going to have to use in order to succeed. Yeah, because otherwise, it's going to be very hard to navigate.
Could you tell us something about your work with the UN?
Working at the UN was one of the most enjoyable parts of my work life, actually. I worked 7 years at UNICEF. I started writing a book on games around the world. That was the first project. So UNICEF could educate children in developed countries that they're very similar to children in developing countries because they play similar games. UNICEF saw that I was a good writer and they hired me to write manuals, administration manual, personnel manual, warehouse manual, manuals on how to run the organization. So I learned a lot about how to manage a corporation by working with the UN and UNICEF. But the thing that really stood out working for the UN was that everybody was coming to work at UNICEF, especially, to save the lives of mothers and children. And that was what other companies would look at as profitability. Like companies will say, how much money you're making. UNICEF said, how many lives are we saving? And I thought, wow, I like this. I like the idea of service. I like the idea of helping the world. So it turned out to be incredibly educational, met people from around the world, and learned a lot about the challenges facing mothers and children and others in the developing world. And yeah, I was very, very grateful for that.
So you loved your work because it aligned with your personal philosophy.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. That's why I love music, because music aligns with what I feel inside. And then when UNICEF finished, I took on another project called the Peace Run. So right as UNICEF was finishing, I was tasked to create a global relay run for world peace. So I went from UNICEF into the service of peace and created the Peace Run.
So you believe that peace begins with me?
I believe that peace begins with me, yeah. I think that if you want to create peace around the world, it's really the collective of individuals aiming at peace inside their lives and spreading that outward. You know, the challenge with life these days is most people are not aiming at peace, they're aiming at personal benefit and pure enjoyment.
You were able to leverage PR to generate 1 billion media impressions. That's a huge number. Can you tell us something more about this?
Yeah, I mean, that was for the Peace Run, when we launched the Peace Run. Now, when you're doing a big project like a global relay run for world peace, you say, okay, well, how do I start it? How am I going to get attention? So in the case of the Peace Run, I thought, well, if we're going to get attention, why don't we bring in all the great celebrities of the world to talk about it? So that was the first thing we did, is we sort of built the idea of the Peace Run into something that seemed to be of interest to a lot of celebrities who were willing to talk about it. And then we got many heads of state involved. We got the Dalai Lama to hold the torch. If you're going to do a big project and you want to generate billions of media impressions, you have to have something that's press worthy. You have to have something that can earn those impressions. It's not that you just put out a press release, but you really have to put a lot of time into it to think, why will people be interested in this? What could I do to make it feel bigger, to create a bigger perception around the Peace Run? In my case, it was bringing in Carl Lewis, Carly Simon, big producer Narda, Michael Walden, to write a song for the run. So if you're going to do anything, you know, look at all the possibilities in terms of resources that you can bring into it, because you may find other people like your idea and they're willing to lend their name to it.
As a PR strategist, composer, guitarist, and a recording artist, how do you find balance between the structured world of PR and the creative, intuitive world of music?
Great question. There's a lot of creativity in PR. So for me, that's the part of PR that I love the most, is sort of dealing with a strategic challenge for a company. You know, the marketplace is not really giving us enough attention. What could we do to change that? And I find a lot of satisfaction in trying to understand that process of what is a marketplace perception of something and how do we modify that? You know, because that's what PR really is changing how people view something and creating, if it's important, creating an interest in trying it out.
If you had to sum up your entire journey in one word, what would it be for you?
Love. Love is all we need to make the world a better place. So when I did my first album, I called the album Sacred Love. And the idea of the album was that if we put love into every expression and every action we take, the world will be a so much better place. Just whatever you're going to do, put it through a prism of love and it'll come out the other side better. So I think that's kind of what I take from everything I've done is if you put love into it, it's going to be a better result.
Sacred Love, Lilac Skies, Acoustic Oasis, such beautiful names. How do you come up with these names?
In the beginning, it was very difficult. But as I became more meditative and contemplative, I started to be able to kind of hear a song that I was playing and I could immediately understand the right title for it, what I was trying to do. It definitely comes to me intuitively, And I also use tools now to extend that.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
We will be back next week with a new episode. Until then, hope you have a great week ahead. Namaste.